First of all, the ANC was a terrorist organisation and Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. And then you can say Yasser Arafat and the PLO, they were terrorists. Mr. Heaton-Harris, this didn't start on the 7th of October. Do the Palestinians have a right to defend themselves? Because the speak is, Israel has a right to defend itself. Did Palestine have a right to defend itself when land was taken from it, when people were dispossessed, when houses were levelled, when UN resolutions on torture, on ethnic cleansing, on apartheid? Did the Palestinians have a right to defend themselves? Did they have a right to defend themselves when Israel turn on and turn off the electricity and stop food and stop medical aid long before this attack?
Well, let's let him answer, shall we?
Just one more thing, right? There are 600 Palestinian children buried under the rubble at this moment in time. There are over 500 Palestinian children dead, and there are 500 Palestinian children in jail, 150 of them minors. Hostages. The children under the rubble are hostages. The children in the jails are hostages. There are hostages on both sides here.
Now is not the time to play political games. We need to make sure that the other nations and terrorist groups do not...
Now is not the time to play political games. How many bombs need to be dropped on Gaza before we call for a ceasefire? How many children need to be killed? Our families are dying. Our families are dying. We need a ceasefire now. We need a ceasefire now. Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
18 years ago, Israel took the brave step of dismantling Israeli settlements in Gaza, handing it almost immediately after the...
The committee will come to order. Let me make it clear, we will not tolerate interruptions in our hearing. You see what's going to be happening. We ask that those that have strong views, there's a place to express it, but it's not to disrupt this hearing. I will not tolerate that.
This isn't a war, it's an ethnic cleansing. And the response of the EU has not just been inadequate, it has been callous, indifferent, and dangerous. This reached rock bottom on Friday when Ursula von der Leyen visited Israel. By then, Israel had dropped 6,000 bombs and on an area half the size of Louth. Thousands were dead and injured. Food, water, and electricity supplies had been cut off, and the Israeli government had given 1.2 million people 24 hours notice to leave northern Gaza. What was the European Commission President's response to this litany of war crimes and breaches of international law? She stood with the Israeli Prime Minister and offered him the EU's unqualified and unconditional support. She said, Israel can count on the EU. Taoiseach, last year when Russia targeted civilian infrastructure and cut off electricity supplies, Ursula von der Leyen called out their war crimes. When Israel acts similarly, she not only fails to utter a single word of criticism, she goes to the region to offer support for their war crimes in our name. The Commission President's failure to unequivocally condemn Israel's collective punishment of the Palestinian people has undermined the EU's response to this crisis. Given von der Leyen has no authority to override member states' foreign policy positions, her comments also amounted to a serious overreach of her authority.
I am very glad to be Harvard.
Palestine will be free! you meet a Jewish person in America, they're probably here because someone tried to kill their grandparents not that long ago. And we should be in Eastern Europe. And it would be nice to live somewhere that was not a part of the Christian apocalyptic prophecy. Is also probably a good idea. Is like maybe settle somewhere that the Christians don't think you all have to die in order for the
and then they want us all to go there. They need a certain number.
They need us to go there so we can die. So the apocalypse.
But Christians they need us for their ridiculous vision, and
exactly.
they're not
like our ridiculous visions are temporarily parallel.
Would you ever go live in Israel?
No, it would be. To me, it just seems very like an antiquated thought process. Like if it is for religious reasons, I don't agree with it because I think religion is silly. If it is for truly the preservation of Jewish people, it makes no sense because, again, you don't keep something you're trying to preserve all in one place, especially when that place has proven to be
volatile,
pretty volatile. And I also think that as a Jewish person, like I was fed a huge amount of lies about Israel my entire life. You know, they never tell you that. Oh, by the way, there were people there. They make it seem like it was just like they're sitting there. It was like the fucking doors open.
Hours for the taking.
Like it literally, they forget to include the fact to every young Jewish person, basically, like, oh, by the way, there were people there.
Well, they just want to make sure that you are frightened of your own survival to the point where when you get old enough, you will make sure that that money goes to Israel and that trees are planted and that you always speak highly of Israel and Israel must survive no matter what.
I think like for Jewish people, especially who are who view themselves as progressive and who view themselves as analytical and who view themselves as people who ask a lot of questions and really challenge the status quo, like, what are we doing?
Well, there's a thing. I mean, I get frightened to talk about it. You start.
I know.
Want people to know that it's never too late to change your political opinions. And I know that it's really hard to admit when we're wrong, especially when there's evidence of us being wrong, i.e. on the internet, especially with this past week. I can only imagine that it would be more difficult for me to admit that I was wrong if I had typed like 15 comments about beheaded babies when in reality that was never a substantiated claim. But I need y'all to know that everyone on the Free Palestine side, especially those that I have actually talked to, like everyone would so much rather you just admit that you were wrong and that you fell for all the propaganda. Like it's not even just your fault that you fell for the propaganda. Like it was a fuck ton of propaganda coming at you at once. And if you're in the United States, they being the United States government, they have a vested interest in keeping you on their side, i.e. the Zionist side. But I need y'all to know that everyone on the Free Palestine side would so much rather you just admit that you were wrong, that you fell for the propaganda, and to join us being anti-genocide and anti-apartheid. Because here's the thing, if you are Free Palestine in the United States, there was at least some point in your life, most likely, where you bought the propaganda that was being fed to us. But the difference between being on the right side of history and not is that once that you encounter new information, the question is, do you change your perspective? Do you change your opinion based on the facts that you're given? i.e., have you changed your opinion now that you know that Hamas was funded by Israel? Have you changed your opinion now that you know that Israel is an apartheid state? Have you changed your opinion now that Israel has been bombing Gaza to the point where one child every 15 minutes is killed on our tax dollars? Because if none of these have made you change your opinion yet into being Free Palestine, it's never too late. So instead of adding to the laundry list of receipts of you buying and eating up the propaganda that you've been fed without second guessing it, maybe switch up your tune. Maybe fight against genocide instead of rooting for it, especially when that genocide is already being funded by you and I's tax dollars if you're an American. So yeah, solidarity with Palestine forever and always.